Our next presenter, Charley Early. Um, Charley earned his architectural degree from Virginia Tech by learning that good design is both a controlled and random development process that, when pursued, often leads to surprisingly simple results. Charley's done a lot of traveling. I think after college he moved to Switzerland on a work visa for 6 months, but ended up staying there for 20 years. He's been to Kuwait, Japan, Thailand. He's a singer, songwriter, just generally a Renaissance man. Charley has, let's talk a little bit about what he'll be speaking about tonight. Charley has refined a patent-pending product design idea of his that's targeting significant and worthwhile improvements to a most common item. Charley.
Now for something completely different. My passion for the built environment is best exhibited by some of my work in the state of Maine, helping owners design buildings like Randall Student Center at UMA and the new Hamden Academy. The practice of architecture involves the ability to change scale from large to small. And that's exactly what we're going to do right now, because I'm holding in my hand an object, a multi-use object of my design. And I want to share with you how it evolved, how I developed it, what I asked myself, where it came from, and could I possibly make a better one? We're talking about the common clothespin. There are 95% of the world's population don't use machines to dry their clothing. That's a pretty big number, but quite a challenge I found out as I went on. This is the traditional clothespin, the spring type. It's pretty nice, but I was wondering, is there things wrong with it? Where did it come from? This is the peg. The peg is pretty sexy, but right in the middle, it's got a design flaw. It's weakest where it needs to be strongest. So that's why it failed. That's why we have the spring. The Shakers also whittled the peg out of branches and things like that early on, and that's where it came from, if anybody's interested in that. So a common object with a common name. David Smith in 1853 patented the first clothespin, and many people have tried since then. I don't know if you know how many types there are, but that answer will come up later on in my presentation. These are some of the ones I researched early on. And of course, the evolution of the clothespin, plastics came about and molding, and we have clothespins for specific use and novelty clothespins like these birds over here and up here and these weird guys over here. Plastics really helped and I think hurt the clothespin industry because they made it out of cheap plastic and caused it to fail. Back to the spring clothespin. It's got 3 parts. Those 3 parts require assembly. It also implies accidental disassembly. When I asked people what bothered them most about clothespins, guess what they said? They always come apart. So I knew my product needed not to do that. I thought about manufacturing waste. Why would you want a product that has 50% of it dedicated to holding it and squeezing it, but it's supposed to be holding something else? I wanted to know if I could reduce that number. So I kept thinking about it and pondering what is the core thought in clothespins. Oh, 2 forces, like forces, pushing against themselves create a state of equilibrium. Introduce a clothespin 3/8 of an inch apart and you introduce twist, or a moment in engineering terms. But who amplifies that? We do. Every time we squeeze a clothespin, we are in fact breaking it. Now, we've been to the grocery store, we got our kumquats and our Activia yogurt, and we see a bag of clothespins, we buy it, we go home, we open it up, we take it out, and what do we do with it? We start to use them, of course. We put them on the line, we introduce them to the elements, and what do they start to do? They begin to degrade. And I thought about, what does that degrading mean for the product? It means breakage, it means rot, it means rust, it means mold spore harboring on our clean clothes, and our clean clothes are what? Wet, moist. So the mold spores rejuvenate. As I kept thinking about it, I wondered about other things I could do to my product to make it better. I thought about Junior. He's out on the lawn with Mom. She's making the laundry. He reaches into her laundry bag and he finds a little rusty spring and he puts it in his mouth, or he drops it in the lawn for the lawnmower to find. There are also people out there who no longer have the dexterity or strength to squeeze a clothespin. I didn't want my product to do that. This is Eclipse. It's one piece. It's always in compression. You can't swallow it unless you're Steven Tyler. And if you could still breathe through it. It's got 100% more clipping surface than the average clothespin. Let's see what else about it. It's UV resistant, temperature tolerant, hot and cold. And it never has to be squeezed. It's self-activating. So I went off to the University of Maine Advanced Manufacturing Center with my Zoomy animation. I met John Belding, and John looked at me and said, "Charlie, people usually come in here with a napkin sketch and a wild idea." And I said, "Well, John, at least I have a wild idea, but I need an engineer." So we started to think about what could we do. Most plastic products are static. They're not kinetic. Eclipse has to move. It has to recover. We got Delrin plastic, and we made two prototypes, one without a bridge at the top and one with a bridge. Right out of the machine, we knew the one with the bridge was the way to go. It was stronger. It had more recoverability. But we needed to analyze where the stresses were. These are just a smattering of the technical things we did to analyze it. And we located the stress point. That's a microscopic little point right up in here. And we designed it out of the product. The product doesn't have stress, therefore it will live longer and recover over time every time you use it. So other things that you do after hours, or might I say hours after, patent process and just non-disclosure agreements, and then along the way, a corporate Eclipse idea came out to expand one of the ribs and emboss logos in there. Those kind of things are going on in the background while the project is moving forward. As you heard, I worked abroad, and I decided not to outsource my product. I make it in Oneonta, New York at Mamco Manufacturing. And you are looking at, I think, the only one in America who's brave or crazy enough to make clothespins in this country. Shortly after I launched it, Gad Charley and Yoav Ziv in Israel were asked by the Vitra Design Museum to put together their 80 favorite clothespins out of their collection of over 500 clothespin types. These represent a lot of variations on a theme. Some of them represent true design thought. I leave the choice up to you. So, why wouldn't you want a clothespin that allows you to have your hands completely free to pick things up and clip them? And if you're a non-believer, it's an excellent dietary device. You fold that bag of chips over twice and slip in the clips on it, and you will not gain weight. So, there you have it. I have some free samples. I didn't know there were going to be this many people tonight, but if you want to see me during the intermission, my name is Charlie. I design buildings, and I have designed a better clothespin. Yeah, thanks, Charlie.
Oh, thanks.